Right, finally let's look at this snow scene. Here we've got a classic compositional error where we've got a fence right across the picture from left to right, so it blocks the viewer's eye from going any further beyond the fence into the picture. Not only that, but the fence has all of the posts evenly spaced in a fairly boring way from left to right. So whatever other interest is created by the sky, the bushes, the tree, the little figure of the dog, the fence effectively stops you dead in your tracks before you go very far into the picture. And another problem here is that in painting the snow, like water, snow always reflects the colour of the sky. Now, I'm not saying that you should have bright orange snow down here, but certainly you can pick up some of the colours of the sky here and there and just have a little hint of it in the snow, and that'll improve the composition no end. In terms of colour, at the moment you've got two quite distinct pictures. Right, now I've only partially painted this version because I want to just finish a few details off with you so you can see exactly the sort of things that you need to do. Compared to this picture, I've moved the tree in slightly and angled it inwards a bit more to give a little bit more interest. I've also darkened the sky on this side and left it lighter here, which balances off the lot of the darks and the lights and the heavy colours that will be evident where you get the tree here. You can see there's a variety of colours there, ranging from the almost neat red there to the almost neat blue there, and I'm just going to pick those up randomly. And then what I'm also going to do is take off much of any excess water because I want to create a little dry brush effect. That's better, that's it, that's what I want, like that. I'd started off with a mix there which was a little bit too watery, so I'm stabbing this on to give some very sort of spiky. In fact, I'm going to open the brush out like that and splay it out. Don't worry, the brush will take it quite happily. And then I'm just going to give ourselves some sort of spiky, bushy effects. What I want to do is assume the sun is the light is generally coming from the right. So if I paint in a few posts here and there, but notice that I'm changing the colour of the posts, and I'm changing the height, and above all I'm changing the angle, and all of this helps to add interest to the picture. And there's a happy little accident there where it looks like the fence post has carried on in white, so we'll carry that on a little. We will make use of that a little bit. Now, it's surprising how little white you can get away with in a snowy scene, because much of this area will be in shadow. And you can see that sort of colour, those colours there, are only essentially the colours that we've got in the sky. We've got a slope here, a slope here, and a couple of slopes here, but I want to create a lead in to these, or what will be the figures here. And you can see just by leaving those little light edges, perhaps a little bit more blue in there, just letting it all nicely run together, perhaps a little bit more here. Like now you can see they're putting on these mixes of red, light red and ultramarine blue, and even a little tint here of the raw sienna. It very nicely picks up the colours that are in the sky, but it still tells you that this is unmistakably snow. But it also helps to define some of the contours in the snow and some of the drifting snow. Now what we're going to do is paint these figures here, and I'm going to paint one in light red and one in blue so that they contrast with each other but also stand out here against this light area of the sky. And I'm only going to paint half the figures because that will give the impression that they're going down a slope on the other side of this hill just beyond the tree. You can see that's no more than a sort of a triangular shape for one figure, and I'm using a number 10 brush, so I haven't got a tiny brush to do this. And now a little bit of the light red like that, and then with a strong mix of the blue, the red and a little bit of the yellow or the raw sienna, we can create ourselves a little bit of dark hair. And it's nice if the figures are talking to each other, so if we do them like that. We make that as a lady, like that. Now we put the mount back on the picture, but I think you'll agree that compared to the original effort, which was okay, this is a far more interesting composition. For example, the pale trees I've added in the background here give a much greater depth to the picture, because with these stronger, darker bushes being in the foreground, it pushes those trees back, so it creates the depth, even though it's almost out of view over the brow of the hill. The leading helps the composition because it takes the eye through the foreground snow through to the two figures here. We've changed this fence that cut right across the picture to one which is very much a hit and miss fence, and we've also got the fence posts themselves as different colours. If you remember here, we created two fence posts and a bit of a rail out of the silhouette from this dark tree here. The focal point is just about spot on to where these lines intersect. As I said before, they don't have to be right in the middle of this. These are not crosshairs from a hunting rifle that you've got to get spot on the focal point. As long as it's there or thereabouts, or in any of these areas, then compositionally you won't be going far wrong. But the other point I wanted to mention about this is that this is an ideal little picture to be doing and practicing on, because it doesn't need many drawing skills. You can see here you've got an inverted arch for the line of the hillside here. You've got a few fence posts which are painted at all sorts of drunken angles, so you don't even need to be able to paint them in a straight line or straight up in the air. The two figures are no more than a couple of blobs of paint with a couple more dark blobs of paint for the hair. The bushes, if you remember, we created by splaying out the paintbrush and stabbing on fairly strong paint. But once you've got the trunk established, once you come to use the rigger for these smaller branches, then the thing almost paints itself. So I hope you'll have a go at this, because it's something that you can create very simply and it will be very satisfying for you, and I promise you, your family and friends will be really amazed if you've never painted before and you have a go at this and produce something like this. Well, there we are. I think you'll agree now that dealing with things like perspective and basic shapes and composition aren't nearly as daunting and worrying as you perhaps thought beforehand. And I hope you've enjoyed the paintings and the drawings that we've gone through, but more importantly, I hope you have a go yourself, because I want you to enjoy the satisfaction, as I did, of, for example, the first time I was able to paint and draw a horse that actually looked like a horse. Now in the next DVD we're going to look at skies, all sorts of different skies and cloud formations and so on, because skies, perhaps more than any other part of the landscape, determine the mood and the atmosphere of a painting. So as before, I'll see you again just as soon as you play the next DVD. So I'll see you then. Cheers.